British Strongman Coaching, Josh here. Today I've got Tim Daglish, aka half the world's strongest twins. So first of all, we're going to talk about what pathway we would suggest to an aspiring weight class athlete. It's a question that I've got from somebody. So I want you to tell us about the pathways that are available for people competing in the weight classes. So for like a few years ago, you first did your, like, say, we started off like in the novices and did a couple of comps, and then you decided that you wanted to go with the weight classes. So let's talk about what you've experienced in, like, what's the pathway to worlds? What's the untested versus tested?
Yes, there's loads of different. Obviously, when you I'd say if you're starting out in strongman and you start and look at competitions online, you go on Strength Register or whatever it is, there's literally hundreds of competitions there, isn't there? It probably can be a bit of a blow your mind straight away, I'd say. You think, oh, what's the difference between this? This one says this is Liverpool's strongest man. You know, everything's kind of seems very blown up, doesn't it? There's a lot to take in straight away. So I guess it's trying to work out what you want to do, what pathway is right for you. There's so much value in all of the random comps that go on all of the time, all year round. Absolutely loads of value in them. And we've done loads of random comps, haven't we, over the last 3 or 4 years? And I guess the kind of thing that always clicked for me was I always kind of looked at those comps as, like this random one here, which we did in Rotherham that day, is like as kind of like pre-season friendlies, coming from kind of a football mindset. They were always, you know, go and have a practice on random bits of equipment with minimal warm-up, do some events you've never done before, and then you can kind of go away from them and do a bit of, like, as we always say, our needs analysis on what we can do to improve. But yeah, I guess we've always looked at these random comps that are going on as pre-season friendlies, and then tried to find what pathway works for us. Obviously, as under 80 kilo athletes, we've competed in the under 80 kilo weight class. We've also competed in the under 90 weight class as well in previous years. So in terms of the different pathways you've obviously got the drug tested and then the non-drug tested different pathways. To be honest, no favoritism to either, really. Both brilliant pathways. Both pathways kind of come from regional qualifiers. I'll go into them a little bit more detail in a moment, and then kind of lead to national competitions and international competitions. So they've all got different routes which you can progress, I'm trying to say, I guess. So in terms of the untested.
So here's a good example of the kind of
man 105
pre-season friendly kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a brilliant comp. You know, there's probably about 20 people there. So some of these comps have a lot more people sometimes than some of these actual weight class comps. So it's really good to go and.
So let's talk about the tested pathway. So this was one last year, wasn't it, where you and Joe finished first and second in the BNSF under 80s. So let's talk about the progression pathway in the tested.
So in the tested now, there are 2 different federations. We've got the BNSF, which we have competed in, not last year, the year before we did it. And then there's also the UKNS now as well. Both pathways, I think you've got to sign up, haven't you? And kind of get memberships, I think, for both pathways. And then you kind of do the qualifiers. So for the BNSF now, I think there is Norths, Souths, I want to say Scottish and Welsh as well, isn't there? And I think it's pretty similar for the UKNS in terms of national qualifiers and kind of regional qualifiers. They're run quite early in the year, aren't they? I think the UKNS one this year is in January, isn't it? It's quite early on, which is good. It's a good start to the season. So with the qualifiers, they tend to be lighter weights. So pretty much everyone can access those qualifiers. They tend to be quite reppy, and some of your more basic events, so they're open for everyone, really. And then they lead on later in the year to kind of like your national finals, or would it be your national finals, I guess?
So the BNSF
that final.
BNSF Britain's came after that, didn't it?
Yeah, so BNSF Britain's last year, well, when we did it was down in Swansea. That's it there. Joe actually won that one, didn't he? Beat me for once. It's the start of Joe beating me and everything.
So that was the day you set the deadlift record, didn't you? The silver dollar
yeah.
deadlift over all the classes, you got the heaviest lift. What did you do? £1,000?
I remember it was like 470 or something stupid. I can't actually remember what it was. It didn't move much because it got so heavy. That was class though, wasn't it? Remember me, Joe, Lewis, all going heavy on that.
Puts it into perspective a little bit. Like the guys are prepping for the Rogue Invitational this weekend, aren't they? And they'll be doing like 455 for reps. And it'd be good to see you have a go at that, actually.
Yeah, it'll be good. And then Connor's there. Connor went on and did it again this year. He won that this year, the BNSF, didn't he? I think. Did he do it this year or did he do the UK NSF? Yes.
I can't remember which one.
He definitely won one of them anyways, but that was well deserved because Connor's an animal. He don't move much. Just gets off the floor. I don't really like that event, to be honest.
And then what's the progression from there? And then the progression from there, you can get to the Europes. Like I think if you like top 3, then you qualify for the European Championships and the World Championships, don't you? So last year the European Championships was in
Swansea again. Long drive, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this is the day that we were gutted that Joe let us down for the filling the podium. But if you looked at this, was ridiculously close this day, wasn't it? I think I was maybe.
I thought I might have pipped you on last event, but I didn't.
I think there was it was something ridiculous. Like it was something like half a point in between the top 4, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was stupid, really.
Like absolutely ridiculous. So I was surprised that I won that day, but that was good. And then the gent who came third, he won Worlds, didn't he?
Yeah, he did that year. I don't know if he did this year. I can't remember.
I'm not sure this year. But yeah, so that's the pathway with the BNSF and the tested. So what about the tested pathway? So
I guess just kind of final thing on that as well. Obviously, there's now 2 federations.
Yeah.
Because if you're sat there thinking which one should I do, I would just go and have a little look at the Facebook pages, look at the qualifiers. You know, what events do you like the look of most? Try and see, watch some people's videos from last year. Try and find someone who's done both. Maybe speak to someone like Connor Cowans, who's done both federations, and just get their experiences. Try and work out which one's best to sign up for, or just do them both. Is another option as well.
Yeah.
So go on and say what you're saying about the tested, untested.
So and another thing we just decided that there just seems a bit more prestige and a bit more like the top end comps of the untested pathway just seem like they're like everybody within Strongman. I say like I was European champion last year. And like it frustrates me that nobody seems to care. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like you win like a even like a regional title, like say in the untested pathway. Like say when Chris Harrison won the North under 105 this year, like untested. It was amazing. It was just absolutely brilliant, and it was like such a big achievement, like because you feel like you're I suppose like against the best. I suppose the best of the best. But you say that. The thing that I do want to say about the tested pathways is like the standard of the top guys is really, really, really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? When you look at some of the names over the past few years in all weight categories, there's some unbelievable guys. Now
you look a bit like say Lewis Blackwood and Matt Neese, Matt Worley, like these guys are lifting like serious. Serious. I don't think Matt even qualified for Brits. Like even people missed out on the qualifier for the standard was really good. Like, so Jake won BNSF Britain's last year, the under 90s. Jake Entwistle, he's absolutely brilliant. He also did he come podium or 4th at untested Brits in the same year?
Yeah. Well, there was that year when it was like you, Dan, and like Pigman. And Jake.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like, I came first at England's Strongest Man untested, and came second at BNSF Britain's last year. And who else was that? Yeah, like you say, Dan Benson. He came. Did he come third at BNSF Britain's and like maybe fourth at England's or whatever? But you look at what he's doing now. Like, I'm really excited to see him at Worlds this year, OSG World. Like an absolute animal. He's pulled like 382 deadlift world record. He's just looking absolutely incredible. But these are the guys that So I suppose what I'm saying to people thinking that it's like the standard isn't as good in the tested pathway. Like I would say actually some of the top guys are really, really good. I'd just maybe say that it doesn't have like the strength in depth. In terms of like the next batch of people who are good and is not quite as deep as the untested pathway.
But again, it's growing, isn't it? And as a sport gets bigger, it's good that these options are there, aren't they? I think.
But it's for someone like me, I just love competing. I love competition in terms of like I just love I love beating people. Like I don't want to like come in first or second out of when there's only 4 or 5 in the class and you're traveling a long distance to do that. Like I'd rather be competing against 20 people. Yeah. Like, and if like say for me the untested route has been I suppose satisfied that itch for me of like competing against more people more consistently. But if you're just like my goal used to be I used to be quite closed off to the untested route and just think, oh no, well I just want to do the tested stuff and like but I suppose what I'm saying to people listening to this, just be open-minded that your opinions may change as you experience both. And I would encourage everybody to experience both, definitely. Yeah. So tell us about the untested pathways then.
So untested pathways, obviously, for each weight category, it does kind of differ who's organising it as such. I guess we've been very lucky over the last few years as under 80 athletes that we've had kind of Luke Davis and yourself for a little bit, kind of running those competitions because there definitely seems to be the path for weight class, which is kind of leading the way, doesn't it? I know a lot of people are quite kind of not envious or jealous kind of in terms of what's going on. What Luke Davis has basically been able to do last few years. You know, it's got a lot of support from official Strongman and the work that Joe Schofield's put in. To kind of with the recording and the different bits of publicity. But yeah, I know they've been some brilliant comps over the last few years. So the kind of structure has changed a little bit because I mean, the first year we were kind of coming out of COVID and it was that massive Britain's, wasn't it? Where there was 8 events and there was about 40 people doing it. And then there was a cut off to the top 10 after the first 4 events. Last year we had England's Strongest Man. And then the top 10 or something qualified to Britain's. And then we had a Scottish qualifier as well. And then there was some invites for Irish people, weren't there? And I can't remember about Wales. I don't think they had anything in the end, did they? Which was a bit of a shame. And then that went on to Britain's up in Scotland. And that was a really good competition again as well. The main thing I'd probably say between the two, they're probably the untested, probably a little bit heavier, would you say? Definitely in the final. That was a heavy comp, wasn't it, last year?
Yeah.
It was a pretty stat lineup, wasn't it? You top, even at England's last year, you had very, very good. There was like 20 odd people doing it, wasn't there? It was pretty stacked all the way through. They were good lineups and it was good competitive competitions. England's probably a little bit more basic events to kind of do, weren't they, in terms of sandbag carry and your farmers, and then on to the final. How many events was the final again at Brits? I can't remember.
When was that?
6? The one
this year.
Second, yeah.
So there was 8 last year, and then there was 6 this year.
But all heavy events, weren't they?
Yeah.
When you think about that 8 we did the year before, it was brutal, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So a thing that I'd say about the untested route. So how many qualify for Worlds, Tim? Like, say if you wanted to do the national pathway to Worlds. So this year,
This year it was definitely top 3, but Tommy Chivers and Dean McVie already had invites. That did roll down. Oh, sorry, Chris was third, doesn't he? So Dean had an invite, so that rolled down to, I think, top 5 ended up qualifying, and then maybe even a little bit lower now because I couldn't go, Chris can't go, Tommy can't go, so I know Lewis is going as well, isn't he? So definitely top 3 to guarantee yourself, but then you never know, other people might already have some sort of qualification. Chris already had one, didn't he, from the online qualifier? That's why it's kept rolling down. But yeah, definitely top 3 at the Britain's Strongest Man to get kind of guarantee yourself the OSG qualifier place.
Yeah. So these are the 8 from last year. You're saying about a heavy comp. So
yeah,
it was pretty mad, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had a lot of events, didn't we? And like both for the last 2 years have finished on kind of. There's been a lot of world records broken into 2 comps, which have been good. There was the deadlift.
So there was Joe who did the deadlift world record last year. There was you who did the Atlas Stone world record last year. There was Flash who did the dumbbell world record last year. This year you did the stone world record, didn't you? 174.
Chris as well got that.
Cool. So in terms of the other weight classes, like the other qualifying routes. So I'll just touch on those briefly. So for people who are in the heavier weight classes, so this is, I suppose, for my coaching, this is something that I like to kind of lead from the front and get stuck in there and expose myself to as many different experiences as possible. So to help with the coaching, I suppose. So this year, I decided to do the under 105 pathway, and I did the under 105 North qualifier. I can't remember where I finished, quite low down, but I managed to qualify to England's, and then.
Right, mate.
Pardon?
You did well. You did well.
Well, I did all right at the qualifier, but I was really pleased with how I did at England. At England 105, I think I came 9th or 8th or something. So I qualified to UK's on that pathway. And was in Doncaster. It was brilliant setup, really well run. Just absolutely loved it. So that's another one of the routes that's really good. And then I suppose last year, and where we started off with the weight classes thing, was in the under 90 route, wasn't it? Doing the under 90s qualifier from North or South or whatever, and then to England's. I think we did that England's at Grindhouse a few years ago, didn't we?
Yeah, that was post-COVID, wasn't it? So everyone just qualified through, and there's about 25 people there. It was mental.
Yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed that. And then there was I suppose the last under 90s kind of pathway comp I did was the England's one that I won in the Midlands somewhere, wasn't it? And again, that was good. But for me, I suppose being really honest about it, like I saw the prestige that was coming from the other kind of the under 80s, and I suppose right now, like I'd be more motivated to train for the under 80 comps that are going on. There's so much opportunity out there. Like it's just amazing. Like even so much as getting like we don't do it for prize money, do we? Of course we don't. We spend a lot more money than what there is potential for us to earn. But it's actually for me, I think it doesn't matter whether you win £1 or whether you win £1,000. To me, it's like, if there's money in it, like it just spurs you on that little bit more, and just I suppose makes it a little bit more serious, I suppose. And like say for you at the under 80s last year, you did. Obviously, I organised it, so it was so sorted a lot of this stuff. But realistically, we got a lot of sponsors that came forward. There's a lot of a simple model in terms of like I was black and white with the people who entered. I said, look, we're just going to put 50% of all the entry fees to like as in the prize pool, and it's such a simple model because that I feel that any promoters listening to this could, like, anybody can do. Just put 50% back into the prize pool. It makes it really easy to sell, because I like I was saying to like people who were kind of umming and ahhing about it, like, look, even if you don't feel like you're good enough this year, come and get stuck in, and your experience of your contribution is gonna support these top guys. Like, they want you there. They're going to be supportive of the lower guys being there, because it makes it better for the guys at the top. It makes it more people to compete against, bigger spectacle and stuff like that. So we got quite a bit of money from that, and then because we had this money to put up, whatever it was probably about, I don't know, probably about 800 quid or something in like directly from us. But because we had this kind of prestige thing that we were like, right, well, we've got a prize pool for the first few people. Does anybody, like, sponsors were so willing to come forward. Loads of people sponsored us, and it was just brilliant. So we ended up, like, me and Luke were happy to like lose money on it, which I suppose like a lot of people can't necessarily afford to do. But we didn't lose any money. We like, people came forward because they saw we were serious about it. People like Silverback sorted the t-shirts out for free, so shout out to them. They were brilliant. Jason from Spartan Atlas Stones, he sent us the world record stone for free as sponsorship. Like, it's just absolutely brilliant. But I suppose like by so just showing that was possible was kind of, it sets the precedent, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like for this year, like like official Strongman came and like sponsored it, didn't they? Like Joe covered it. You and Joe got Cerberus sponsorship off the back of it. Like, it was just brilliant. But it sets the precedent, like, for this year. Like, we had to have prize money at Brits. Like, it was just absolutely brilliant.
It's definitely set the bar, hasn't it, in terms of standards?
Yeah, that's it, and just shows that's what possible. So my point is like, as an under 90 last year, I was thinking, I'm really jealous. I want to get stuck into the under 80 scene. So yeah, that's what I've done, and like, say, I've not regretted that at all. Like, all the opportunities that have come with that. Like, say, we did the Arnolds last year together. That's another kind of thing that you could do. Was the UK Arnolds last year, the log and deadlift that you qualified for, the online qualifier, and then we also did the OSG Worlds last year. We did that, and then we've qualified for the online thing there. Another opportunity for people who want to do internationals. There's the ultimate French world, like the ran in Paris recently. The ultimate worlds, that I just think you have to be strong enough to do it. Yeah, like, anybody can enter that. So for people who want to kind of compete internationally, like, you can like have a look at that and have a look, like, keep a lookout for what happens next year. There's the Arnold Spain, the Arnold Classic Europe, the one that me and Molly did recently in Seville. That was absolutely brilliant. And again, that was a comp that you can kind of see the events, and if you're strong enough, you can go and enter that. And just a brilliant experience getting to compete against, like, people from, there was like probably about 15 different countries there. It was just brilliant meeting other people and learning from them, like, their experiences of how they train and blah 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 blah. And then the other opportunity there is Clash. So can you tell us briefly about Clash?
Yeah, it was great. Clash last year was mainly online qualifiers. I know this year coming there's more. I know Luke and Rhea running a qualifier, aren't they, down just before Christmas? But last year when it was all online qualifiers. It's quite an interesting little concept, wasn't it? It was what they released the event, and you had, like, was it 3 or 4 days or something to get your entry in?
Yeah.
So a bit different to the OSG online qualifiers, where you kind of got about 2 months to practice and perfect your perfect set. It was kind of like you almost had like one shot, didn't you? Then you blew your load, and that was kind of your effort. We had a couple of really good big Fridays, didn't we, where we were or killing ourselves on that sandbag over the shoulder. And you did about 40 warm-up sets and then realised you had nothing left in you. Get looking at you saying, you're going to do your set, and then you'll have to do it tomorrow. You're an idiot. But that was good.
Sandbag over shoulder, 100 kilos. What did you do? 11?
I think 11 or 12. I think it might be 12.
Did you get 12? I got 11 or something. Or did we both get 11? I look back at it and think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, couldn't even pick up 12 times now. But yeah, no, it was good. I like the qualifier concept, to be fair, in terms of the fast turnaround. Sometimes with the OSG one and people having like 2 months to perfect it. I know it's a different skill in terms of being able to peak your top set, but it kind of was that you had like 1 or 2 shots, didn't you, really, at it? It was what was it? I think we had a log 3 rep max, we had a sandbag over shoulder and deadlift 5 rep max axle. So they were all tough. But sort of events, if you go for a 5 rep max axle and you miss it by a rep, you're not jumping straight back in again to do it, are you? So I like that concept. So then I went out to Colorado in the summer to compete out there. It was good. It's just another very different experience. It was very different to any other international competitions we've done before in terms of it was started and finished within 2 hours, which was difficult. You just didn't really have much time to do anything other than just go and do your next event. Kind of interesting concepts that they were kind of encouraging beforehand, just to warm up for every event before you start the comp, because you're not going to get any time during the comp. So like warming up overhead and deadlift and yoke at the same time, and then going out and doing your overhead straight into yoke pretty much. It's quite an interesting concept, really, and I quite like the idea of it, because even sometimes in comps where you do have more time, you don't always, do you? So yeah, I quite like that thought, really, to be honest. But no, it's just a good experience to help gather more experience competing internationally, and you go away and you think, oh, I should have done this better, and you try to make weight in an international country and try to find a sauna, and just everything that comes with it is just a good experience. It's exhausting. It's
and also a word on that comp, like Clash, like it was there was 10 grand for first place, wasn't there? Like it's stepped up again. So Anthony Furman, like absolutely brilliant. What he started off with the Clash series in terms of and there's that for all weight classes now.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, that was obviously the idea.
Just another route for people to do. And a little note on the online qualifiers. So for people asking about, like, thinking about what pathways to do, what is great about the online qualifiers is like anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Right? And the great thing about the online qualifiers is you get to pit yourself again. If you're an under 80 and Tim's doing it, like an under 18 in England, or you're thinking maybe you do England Strongest Man or whatever, like do the online qualifiers and you get to compete against Tim. You get to compete against some of the American guys who are amazing. Like you get to do that from the comfort of your own gym and be able to, like, in terms of like for goal setting and stuff, it's absolutely fantastic. So the great thing about the official Strongman one, you have to pay, is it $7.99 a month or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I feel that's a barrier to some people. So you don't get everybody doing it, but it's brilliant if you want to get your chance at qualifying for official Strongman Games Worlds, which of course is the competition that owns the title of World's Strongest Man in each weight class. But the thing that's great about Clash is you don't have to pay an entry fee whatsoever. You don't have to pay a membership. So what I found, like there was a lot more entries on that. So actually you do, like, I can't remember exactly, but there was a significant amount. So because I remember was looking at the sheet and thinking about people that we were above, who were just like absolutely brilliant. And like even for us, like say our levels we compete, like it's great to see that, to have more data to compare yourself objectively, rather than just be like, oh, so and so's really good or whatever. Like actually think, well, see what the gaps are, and then you can work out how to close the gaps, and you can do that from the comfort of using your own equipment or at your own gym. So,
and I guess as well, just adding on that, like, fair play to Clash. You know, we went out, me and Flash and Rich Molnar and a few others, like from around the world. But we went out, you got hotel paid for, which you don't ever get, really, do you? Anything, to be honest. What else did we have? There was no entry fee, which was the first time I don't think I've ever had to pay an entry fee for a comp. Even just stuff like when we were out there was, you know, the night after the comp, everyone went out for a big meal, which was covered, all the food and stuff. It was in like a theme park, which was cool. It was good live stream online, but you know, we didn't have to cover any of that. And I can't even remember any comp where you've not had to pay an entry fee or you've got anything back really. So it's not loads, but it's more than you'll ever get in most comps. And it's quite exciting to see where that goes over the next few years as they keep getting more sponsors and it grows, that, you know, they actually were giving directly back to the athletes, which was nice.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that was what was good about the Arnolds at Europe, was like the first time I've ever won prize money, like 500 euros. Yeah. It was like just amazing, absolutely amazing. So if you're somebody listening to this and you maybe contemplating getting a coach or whatever, like from the stuff that we've explained, like we've explained the pathway, and from experience, it's amazing. Like actually speaking from experience, we've covered virtually everything on there. Oh, and Strongman Champions League, if that ever comes up, I did that in India in 2019 under 90s. That was amazing. So if you ever get if that comes up, have a look at the events. Like if you feel you're good enough, just see if you message them and see if you can get involved. So yeah, what's great is that Tim's speaking from a lot of experience here and just touching on things that we've done and actually things that we've worked on. So yeah, I've linked in description if you'd like to get involved with Tim's coaching. So
it's nice. It's weird, isn't it? Just sitting back and reflecting how much we've done between us. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. And I feel that's so powerful to kind of like you say, reflect on actual experience. Like, because we talked about on the podcast we covered the route, the pathways like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
and but again, it's so different. Like actually reflecting on actually we've done that, we've done it, we've been there, won the t-shirt or whatever, and like continue to do so, and like I suppose proof that we're fully immersed in what we teach as both coaches and athletes. And I feel that this is such a powerful thing as a coach to be able to deliver, is much beyond the say just programming sets and reps and stuff. Like is actually to know how it feels. Like Tim, if you've got like say a scenario where you've got an athlete that you're coaching and they're going to compete at a comp, and you can put yourself in their shoes. You know what it feels like to have 5-minute warm up for a max deadlift. You know what it's like to go and do a yoke out in the rain and what it feels like. Like you know what it feels like to have to put a jacket on to go and lift up a frame carry or whatever. You know what it like to go and load an Atlas stone that's wet that you haven't prepared for. Like all these experiences that are kind of you can put yourself in those shoes, and I feel like it's so powerful having that experience as a coach. So yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, no, it's quite good. I've got client Kevin going out to Worlds actually, and like he's just pecking my head like all the time. It's great, like what's it like and stuff. No, in a good way though, in terms of asking like what's it like, what's the warm up area like, and so glad that we've had that experience to be able to help and share with people, because it's a unique experience, isn't it? And it's one that you wouldn't be able to prepare for if you didn't know what it's going to be like. So just to be able to help people and kind of say, yeah, this is what it's going to be like. There's a lot of people there warming up, but you'll have enough time. You'll have a lot of downtime between events. So you kind of got to regulate yourself and stuff. But just to kind of be able to share that with him to help him has been good.
Yeah, that's what I seem to get the feedback from people who are coached from Loz Charlet, like the amount of experience that he's speaking from, and having such a kind of being such a personable person, and being able to like say deliver these in the specific context of what the client needs. I think is just absolutely brilliant, because you get the people who are as experienced as him, but then they're not necessarily good coaches because they can't kind of. Whereas I think like it's brilliant all the experiences he talks from. Right, so let's move on to the next thing. So how have you? Let's talk about getting from a 250 deadlift to a 350 deadlift, Tim. And you obviously you did this whilst losing weight. So I want you to just talk about some of the strategies that you used that maybe a little bit different to what other people do, and like any barriers or any apprehensions that you had, about, say, when you decided to get to that you wanted to go into the weight classes, and obviously to lose a little bit of weight and get, like, how did you manage to get stronger so consistently during this phase?
So thinking back to like when we deadlifted, instead of say we, because me and Joe were both exactly at the same time, we deadlifted 250 together on the same day. That was like one of our first novice comps. We were probably weighing 102, 103 at the time. And we first did 250. That was a raw pull. And just kind of consistently from then, we always had Tuesday night was our deadlift night. We always trained deadlift, and that Tuesday night was sets upon sets upon sets, because we knew it was something we enjoyed. It's one of probably our favourite events, which we weren't naturally pretty good at it, because when we first started deadlifting, we were, deadlifting 100 kilo. It wasn't like we first went in the gym and pulled 300 for the first time. And we naturally just kind of progressed it really by doing a lot of reps and sets. We followed kind of quite nice linear volume programs, didn't we? We did a lot of 7x5, just starting out at 50% and just hammering the reps out until they felt really good. And then next week we come back and add a little bit of percentage on, do 52.5%. That always worked really well.
So say you were training for, like, say, the deadlift world record, and it was like the say to beat 360, and you were kind of backing off the other competitions and stuff, so you could really focus on the deadlift. Like, what would be your kind of ideal frequency and rough split? Like, what would you do? What like, looking back on the data and stuff, what you've done years ago, like, what kind of stuff worked really well for you? Did you find, what was your favorite kind of phase or approach?
So for me, I would be going twice a week at least, definitely twice a week, maybe 3 times a week deadlifting. I would have a predominantly deadlift night. Well, this is from experience of what we have done. Predominantly Tuesday night, where we kind of get a lot of volume in, where it's a pretty tough session. The volume's done majority, kind of 70%, where we can do a lot of good quality work. And then we might have a lighter session as well in the week, where we're focusing on some sort of weakness we've got, whether it's deficits or whether it's some sort of speed work, or if we are going just particularly for the deadlift world record, where it's actually just a really light skill session in the suit. Because I think people don't really prioritize how much skill the suit takes. They just throw it on and they kind of hope to get some kind of free weight from it, really. But we always prioritize using a lighter skill session as well, where we might just be lifting 150, 170 in the suit, and it'd be like nothing. But we're just nailing singles in that. That might come on that Thursday session as well. And then we'll kind of have our one heavy session of the week. So whether that'll fall on, Friday in our big event session where there's a good buzz in the room, or we might actually do that on the Tuesday as well. But it would usually be 3 times a week. And that might be our heavy stimulus for the week on the Friday, where we might just keep each week just going a little bit heavier than the previous week before, or focusing on 5 rep max, 3 rep max, 2 rep max, and just moving those numbers up steadily over time. But that would kind of be our. You're probably going to get it up, Josh, are you, I guess? But are you having a little look back to see if you can find any? Tuesday, main volume. Thursday, some sort of accessory skill, which isn't taking loads of time, literally talking 10, 15 minutes. And then Friday, it's kind of a heavier session. What have we got on here?
So can you see it? So this is like a few weeks before you hit 350. Let's have a look at some of the stuff that we were doing. So April 2021, deadlift, big 6 rep of full gear, 310 for 5, bit annoying, maybe overshot it slightly, 310 for 1, 310 for 3, 310 for 2. Big 4 rep of full gear, same weight, 320 for 3, 320 for 2, 300 for 4.
Well, 320 for 4. So if you look on the Thursday there, we've got deficit
So,
deadlift.
so obviously the Tuesday was your big heavy session, and then the Thursday.
Yeah, I think at that time Tuesday was because we had a deadlift medley on a Friday, crikey. So we've got deficit on the Thursday, right at the bottom. I think it's quite a lot of volume. 60 total at 160 short rest. Oof.
So and then there's like some deadlift moderate volume on
Also,
Monday.
it's 4 times a week at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you weren't hitting a Friday one though, were you?
No, it was a Friday. If you go.
Oh yeah, there was the deadlift medley. This was crazy, wasn't it? So
did 2
this
sets,
actually
210, 230, 260, 290, and then 252. Felt ridiculous after all those G medley work. Class.
So when. So this we can feed onto the next question here. So when programming, how many movements events do you think is optimal to focus on to improve in one block? Can you try and improve all without a singular focus on any one movement? So what we're having a look at here, we're having a look at Tim's programming, right, when he hit. So again, like I say, I like to talk about stuff that we've proven has worked, right? And then we can kind of, instead of just speculating, go and take this approach. This was the prep, or this was part of the prep where Tim pulled 350. I think you pulled 315 raw. Maybe even the day. Did you do 315 raw the day before you pulled a 350? It was something ridiculous. Like you hit a raw PB and a suited PB the day after, which is kind of against like any kind of programming principles you'd ever seen. But anyway, this specific phase, we were prepping for Worlds as like the kind of the main underlying block, where, talking from a deadlift perspective, Tim went and won the deadlift medley at Worlds, OSG Worlds, came first. What was the deadlift medley that you did in a ridiculous time?
It was like weird weights. It was like, I think like 205,
205, 248, 265, 288, and what was the last bar?
305. That mammoth.
305. Brilliant. So this bit that I've got up, and this was actually like the prep for hitting that. He hit a 350 deadlift in raw deadlift PB. He was prepping. This was prepping Worlds in the background, OSG Worlds. Prepping Brits events that there was 8 events for, that you literally at Brits where you won, you and Joe came first and second, you were brilliant on 8 events. Like 8 events out of 8, you were absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And you were also prepping kind of in the background as part of this, the BNSF events.
It was a North qualifier, wasn't it? Which was really a lot lighter than everything else we were training. So it was a bit awkward, wasn't it?
So it was like a lot of the movements obviously carry over, but you were doing like kind of different energy systems.
Yeah, totally.
Like, so what we're kind of proving here is that, say, it's proven with results that it worked really well. But to a lot of people, it may seem like quite ridiculous. But this is the thing about getting kind of personal programming, is like, if you wrote those goals down again, we'd come up with a completely different kind of phase again, wouldn't we, really?
Yeah.
But anyway, you look at, say, so actually you were deadlifting 3 times a week when it was really good. So one day, basically one day moderate. So 3 sets of 9 at 60 multi, 2 sets of 9
times a week. That
is it 4? Oh yeah, 4 times. It's 4 times. It was 4 times. So you were doing. Let's break it down into simple terms. So say like a max effort heavy stimulus on the Tuesday.
Monday was like volume. Reps.
Monday was moderate volume, let's say. Thursday was like specific kind of assistance. We worked on deficits in this phase.
Yeah.
To work on the stretch, whatever. And then the Friday was kind of
advanced deadlift as such, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a skill focus, wasn't it? Focusing on the transition. So you look at the stuff here that we built up for you to be able to recover from, and you were fit. This was probably when your deadlift was feeling great. 2 sets of 9 at 210 on the Monday, and then 310 for 5, 310 for 1, 310 for 3, 310 for 2 on Tuesday. The Thursday was the assistant, 60 total reps, mainly 5 sets of 12 at 155 deficit. And then deadlift medley, 210, 230, 260, 290, 230. Felt ridiculous. Blah, 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 blah. And then how we're progressing here. So then the big 4-repper, 300 for 4 on the Tuesday. The Monday session still progressive at the moderate volume, 220 for three sets of 7. Let's look how that progresses, actually. So what do you hit? 2. Let's look at the Monday session, how that progresses. So 210, 2 sets of 9, 220, 3 sets of 7, 235, 5x5, and then 250, 10 reps at 25, 225. So that was like the moderate day. And then the day after the moderate day, that's when you were hitting the PB, wasn't it? So 300 for 4 that week. And then you went to 320 for 6 singles. I remember that session. That was crazy seeing you repeat them.
I did 340 for 1 last.
Look at this. Pick a weight between 280 and 300, 45 minutes AMRAP singles.
Yeah, that was very nice.
We'll go for
go back to that previous session. Sorry, to the previous Tuesday on the deadlift. That was big 2-repper. So I did 330 for 2, and then I had eight singles. So I did 320 for 6 singles, and then you made me go up for the last 2. 330 and 340. So I did 340 after doing all of that. That was a class session, that.
And then the week after, you've hit 30 reps at between 280 and 300. And then what was the progression? Big single without risking missing, 330 to 355 range, drop for 5x1. So 350, this way you hit 350. Happy with this. To 305 wasn't very good. But then at the same time, you've got these kind of deadlift medley comp weight. Oh yeah, that was swapped to the Vienna. So yeah, what I'm showing here is that actually you've got a load of different things that like training at once. So actually what we'd train for in a general block would be like, say at the minute, say you're doing more of like your deadlift. You're doing like your deadlift top set and like you're doing like your deadlift volume on one day on the Tuesday at the minute, and then you're doing like a big set on Friday, and then the other day we're doing. So basically, let's say off season, for instance, at the minute, you're doing more kind of. So you're still getting your at the minute you're getting like all your variation in terms of events, but like at the minute we're focused on kind of volume accumulation, aren't we? In terms of what we got, like say for instance, if you're warming up for overhead on a Thursday, then you're doing like kind of all your overhead and all your pressing and kind of upper body stuff there. So because it's like off season, we don't have a specific thing to kind of that we have to be doing. For comp, we're finding this method at the minute is a great way of like accumulating more volume, rather than warming up for loads of different things. Whereas actually what we found there, looking back on the kind of specific blocks when we've got comp season or comp preps, we're actually massive fans of like undulating intensities, aren't we? And like hitting stuff with different frequencies. So like you might notice that on that, if you go back to his mate, we see Tuesday as your main deadlift session kind of thing in terms of volume. What you actually done there is we've swapped the assistants in that phase, like all the assistants work really, and we're putting up exposure to different events that are coming up to the different comps. Even though the deadlift is the main focus, we're still getting the exposure of the other events. So that's how we our method of like affording you kind of to prepare for multiple events at once.
I think as well, just answering the question, like looking at the question in terms of different events and stuff. I know something we've done really well in the past. Let's say our focus for a comp was yoke, and then one day we were going 2 heavy sets of yoke comp weight or just below, and then another day we might have 10 sets of 10 at a really lightweight on farmers, something that's not going to take anything away from the rest of the week. But instead of just kind of totally ignoring other events, we were just kind of ticking them over in the background as well, weren't we, as such? That's a tactic we've worked really well over the years. Kind of, if we've got a focus for one comp, we'll keep the other one in, but literally it's not stealing any time or anything from the week. You are just going to keep this creeping up. 10 to 10, minimal rest. Let's just get through them. And then when you come back in to bring that event, actually, yeah, I feel it's pretty good because I've not totally abandoned it. I've been improving it. My grip's improved slightly. I've been able to improve my footwork. And then when that becomes the main focus, because usually comps kind of tend to change events, don't they? It's not totally abandoned. The other one can back off, and that can become a different focus.
Yeah. In fact, find that like people might look at that and think, "Oh God, when you're in that phase, like how do you recover? It's just crazy." But the thing is, like because it's so like progressive over time, like that, like we build up to that, and actually we're actually choosing to do that because when you're in that phase, like it is actually more optimal for recovery. We find because if you think of putting all that deadlift like look at it like this way, right? That week that I've just read out, that was over 4 days where you've hit pretty tough deadlifts. Imagine if you were doing that all on one session.
Well, you won't be able to, would you?
You'd be completely written off. You'd get DOMs and muscle soreness, whereas taking like the higher frequency undulating intensities approach is like we manage like muscle soreness pretty well most of the time. Would you agree?
Yeah, I never really have any soreness.
And kind of as long as you're kind of what's the word, like in terms of like say managing the neural way of it. I think
it's the neural fatigue, isn't it?
Yeah, like very often you'd maybe come to that Friday session and like look at it as more as like an RPE session, for instance, or like a blank weight session where you kind of sometimes I just think, right, well, I've got 2 days recovery after this, so I'll just see what I have in the tank. And I don't mean like max out or be reckless, but I mean like, well, go a bit heavier on whatever exercise there is. But if it doesn't feel, the key is if it doesn't feel right, like actually, right, I'm not chasing that. I'm just going to go light on this today. Yeah. To afford yourself to follow the progressive principles on that, because one day you might have light percent, like on the Monday in that phase, you had light percentages that were progressive, but light to moderate percentages that were kind of a way that I know that I could progress you on in terms of giving you an absolute number, and you were always going to be able to do it. On the Tuesday, it was like progressive kind of neural stimulus, where we were kind of going heavy, but the goal was to keep it progressive towards this peak or whatever. The Thursday was the kind of mindless deficit, really light. I was giving you a specific weight to do that I knew you could do mindlessly, and it was just graft. So then this other day was kind of, what you had left. And to be able to do that as an athlete, it does take a bit of skill, and you do have to like learn your own body, because a lot of people, they'll just go too heavy on that last session, and they won't have the sense to, oh well, actually today's a good day to back off. Or you have the other people who go lighter than they have opportunity to build a stimulus on. Like so many people, oh well, I went heavy on Tuesday, so I can't go heavy tonight because I can't deadlift heavy twice in a week. But how do you feel? Oh, great. Like, how powerful are you feeling today? You feeling explosive? Oh, well, I've just launched a 20-kilo bag over 4.6 meters. It feels amazing. Right. So are you sore? No. Well, what's up with you then? Like, go on, crack on. Can we do a slightly heavier set? And then very often we did. And then like some like magic happened. Yeah. But I suppose that answered the question about like, can you train and improve all without a singular focus on any one movement? So we've shown there within this block, we've actually improved all this other stuff that you'll be able to kind of look back on and see that in this little phase here leading up to Britain's Strongest Man, if somebody wants to kind of look at the simplicity of stuff that we've got on there, is we've covered all the events that are kind of coming up. There's like the BNSF, there's the Britons, there's the So
the thing about that block as well, like if you gave me that week now, I wouldn't be able to do it now, obviously, because I'm not at that phase. But that's one of like I think 724 workouts completed on True Coach that have obviously built to be able to complete that week. If you look back 10, 15 weeks before, it would probably be look somewhat kind of similar, but would obviously be lower intensities, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I suppose we've actually found that, analyzing your program that's worked, like I say, just to reiterate, we're looking back on stuff that we've proven has worked here. That performance at Brit and how much you improved was just absolutely, like, it was crazy. So we, that's it. Look, Britain's Strongest Man under 80. Like, this is the lead up. Oh, and this is an example of a deload as well, by the way, for anybody looking. So people like, what do we do for deloads? Like, what do we do? I did a live stream on this recently, but the point was that a lot of people have like a week off or whatever. This is what Tim did in like one of his best performances to date. So he's trained on. He missed the stone loading.
Yeah,
but he's still gone up to 100 log. He's still gone up to. You're still prepping the other thing in the background. You did set of 14, 75 kilos for the comp that was coming up the 2 weeks later. You'd still done some. You'd still gone up to 250 deadlift. You know, like 3 days before this 8 event comp. Still doing some frame and some yoke, car deadlift hold. Still training 2 days before. Done some dumbbell. And like the proof is in the pudding. And I'm not saying that this is optimal and everybody should follow this, but I'm just saying that this is an example of what we have done that has proven has worked. And another great thing, like he's here, another principle of Tim, which is brilliant. He's here. He's won Britain's Strongest Man under 80, won money, won sponsorship, done absolutely brilliant. Had the Sunday off because he always does. And then what's he got? He's doing stone runs on the Monday. Doing 80 for 10 log, 5x5 at 200 deadlift, yoke, deadlift medley. Like, I suppose this is an example of how the kind of the program changed to suit what he's coming to suit the bridge to transition into his next comp, if you will, which is a few weeks later, the BNSF Norths. So yeah, this gives people an example, and like consistently here, look, in the competition phase, we've covered all the events like brilliantly, but realistically, there's five exercises per workout here, up to E, D here, E. So essentially, you're following in that competition phase, even though it seems like you're being really specific. Like very often, you're following like say maybe 15 to 20 progressive protocols in your training week, which realistically, if you break it down like that, doesn't sound like a lot. Like a lot of people who might do 10, 12 workouts a session, you know, like different assistance exercises and that. But I suppose I'm answering this from a kind of competition peak kind of thing that's worked really well for us. Whereas if you look at what we're doing more recently, when it might look like a more traditional kind of, you know, like we have like an overhead focus day, don't you, on Thursday, a deadlift focus day on Tuesday,
focus day, and then more events,
and then more events on the Friday, which maybe more match up with what people are kind of what people are doing kind of in their off season. But I feel like a lot of people who don't bridge that gap into affording themselves to train more specifically when they get to a competition phase are kind of missing out on the benefits of getting specific. So again, so if you want Tim to have a look at training your specifics for your upcoming comp, check out the link in description, and he'll be able to do that for you. Because like if you've listened to this and you feel like, oh wow, that makes sense, I'd really like to give it a go, but you don't know where to start yourself, and you feel like it's very, very easy to kind of, if you were writing that for yourself, like like Tim's just mentioned, he might be like 700 workouts into me coaching him, or more than that, I don't know. But like, I've got to know Tim and what works for him and what triggers it like so deeply. Like, I'm like, I know how to kind of map this out for him and what's going to be
725 workouts.
Really.
What says.
But yeah, if you were just trying to do this for yourself for your upcoming comps or a couple of comps, and you haven't really and you're just kind of making it up and giving it a go, I would say like just do a trial bot with Tim, even if you feel like you just steal the ideas for 6 weeks and just you don't continue. Like, just get somebody who's not only proven it as an athlete and proven the systems, but proven it as a coach as well. Like you say, you've got guy going to Worlds, haven't you? Like, just take the guesswork out. Like, it's just so valuable. So, Tim, tell us about wringing out as much extension as possible out of a stone load for people who fall short. So, I want you to cover a few tips here that how your Atlas stone technique has developed and changed over the years. Like, so big shout out to Tim. He has done the Atlas Stone World Record 2 years in a row at Britain's Strongest Man. Like, last year he did I think probably he's probably the most impressive stone run that I've ever seen. That 100, 120, 140, 165 as a stone run is just absolutely bonkers, and it blows my mind every time I see it. Eight events in. And you hadn't really been you hadn't been confident cutting weight there, had you? Like, you were 79 kilos after the.
Was that our first 80 comp as well? I can't remember. It was.
Maybe it was, but that like, you did that 8 events in, second venue, God knows how many hours into the day. You were legit. What were you, 79 kilos when you got home and you weighed yourself? Like, so
it's like against everything that people say shouldn't work, wasn't it? Doing well 8 events in.
Definitely. So tell us your approach and like how you've improved at stone so much, and also as well, another in that peak, the big squats would have been taken out completely, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of tips for the actual movement, or tips in terms
of for the move, let's answer this question first. So, how do you wring out as much extension as possible for people who are falling short? You know, people who are like maybe missing on the lip or whatever.
I think there's 2 parts of it. I think the first thing, which is often if you watch someone stone loading, the first thing that people might be getting wrong if they're struggling to extend is the little foot trick. I don't know if you can get the video up or not, Josh.
Yeah.
In terms of when you do the pickup, at the top of the pickup, sliding your feet in. Often, sometimes you'll see people loading a stone and their feet are almost glued to the same place where they made the pickup. So if you think of a really heavy, big stone and your feet are quite wide because you've had to stand wide to pick it up, it's not a powerful position to be able to load from. You want to be almost in your jumping position where you're the most powerful, because then you can extend up. If you go on reels, Josh, that one for the 175 should be there, I guess. So you want to be in that powerful position. So there's a little thing where you can. It's up at the top. Sorry,
it's all right. I want to see this. The first one first.
Not the one where it falls off.
I
think it was that there.
Oh, yeah. Keep saying. So you
anyway. So you want our feet, if we can, not to be in where we're picking the stone up from, basically. So once we get to the top of our extension with a pick and we're about to lap the stone, we can slide our feet in. So we're actually in a really powerful position to be able to fully extend when we're loading. That's the first thing we kind of want to do. Can you find it or not? Struggling here. There is that one on the right, I think.
Yeah, look. So what you keep talking, and people can see the stone.
If you're watching if
you can see his feet moving in as he laps.
There we go, sliding in there. So that's getting me in a position actually.
100, 120. That was. This is 140 coming up.
When I stand up onto my toes, that I'm actually going to be at a really tall position, so I can finish my extension, sliding them in there, and I can actually. It makes everything so much easier because I'm in a position where I'm naturally able to get onto my toes to finish my extension. that's kind of my first tip, making sure we're moving our feet. And if I'm trying to load from this position here, it's not going to be a good position to kind of extend. You see my feet just sliding them in slightly on that one there. I think the next thing is not to panic. Should have made sure it was on properly, but oh well. Not to panic when we get to that extension. People far too often kind of shoot the load, don't they? And not panic as such. Make sure that we're fully extended onto toes. And if kind of almost when you think you're fully extended, there's still always a little bit more you can go, whether it's getting fully onto our toes or kind of just finishing with our upper body. We've done a lot in training of using really simple things like making sure we're not hitting the lip when we're loading.
So providing constraints to.
Yeah, that's quite good. You'll see sometimes people, they're loading and every time they're smashing straight into that lip. And it's like, well, you're probably not, you notice the first three there, well, it's not a massively high platform, but they're all clearing it quite comfortably. So yeah, feet in, these are probably quite good ones in terms of singles on the yoke.
So this is an example where we're providing a constraint where you have to be a little bit more patient to. So this is Joe, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Really good footwork here, though. If it is Joe, is it me? Yeah. Anyways, the footwork's really good there, and that's if you can see it. Just so if we hold it to where I got onto my toes at the end, you can see there I'm stood in quite a good position. It's not a great load because I've kind of rushed it a little bit with my upper body.
In causing
kind of giving myself natural height. There we can see it on that screenshot there. The position it's allowing me to get into, or Joe.
So you can see Joe here really patiently moving his feet in. And what Joe does really, really well here, this is one of the points I want to cover, is what Joe does fantastically well, and he's doing it really well now with sandbag, is he's using the stretch reflex so well, and he's maximizing the stretch reflex. So you can see Joe, he's shuffling his feet in, and then when he knows that he's in a good position, he's actually accelerating down into the hole to bounce out. You see how many people, Tim, do you see that are lapping the stone and then they're kind of sitting down at the bottom catching the breath? And it's like,
it up, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a pause squat up. So you need to maximize the stretch reflex.
Looking at Tomi's comment there on that, do you see it? It says something like, your stones are improved so much, dedicated. And that's just kind of reminding me, we were terrible at stones. Remember when we used to train in the crates that we had?
Yeah, the pallets.
Awful.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you were missing all the time, like 80, 90, weren't you?
Yeah.
Like to the higher platforms. But again, this is a thing that, say, you've done a massive phase where you're just working on technique and going light to practicing to high platforms and stuff. And another thing that's the thing with taking the approach of undulating the intensities and higher frequency is you can go for your kind of heavy stones on your new rule day or whatever, but think of how much value you've got over the years of doing that, like that nobody's ever seen or nobody's interested in the programming of it on that Monday session for over a year where you've done
light stones on a
stone of steel. You're doing like 60 kilo Atlas stone for 5 sets of 5 to high platform, or there might be a slightly like. But it can afford you to practice all these cues and all these drills. Do you know what I mean? Like timing the bounce out of the hole, etc. So have you got any other tips? Any other things that you?
They're the main things I'd say. Like you said, bouncing out the hole, feet in is a massive one. I think that's why a lot of people really struggle with the extension because they just don't find themselves diagonally straight towards the top of the platform. Whereas what we actually want to achieve is the stone to go up. And then once we get that moment where the stone's as high as possible, that's when we're then going to push it on. So if we were kind of looking at the trajectory, we're going up and then over instead of diagonally straight to platform. And that's what you get when a lot of people start hitting this part of the platform. So up and then pushing it over when it's that weightless moment in the air. An angle of trajectory.
So this is an absolutely brilliant point by Tim that you can see by watching the video again. This is a thing that I often talk about on stone loads, where people try and go from the center of the stone directly to the lip. So up that hypotenuse of a right angle triangle. Yeah, they go direct there. Whereas what we want to do is produce force vertically until we've reached the peak, like the desired height, and then exactly horizontally to push into the platform.
Yeah.
So we want to be applying force in a straight line, not up there, but there. And you can see on these demonstrations, Tim's doing that. So actually, because you can see it almost like you're popping it. That's what creates the pop, is like you're popping it up vertically because it's such an efficient line, and then you're just pushing it in when the stone is weightless. Yeah. So absolutely.
That's just taking like the lip of the platform out of the picture, isn't it? Because we're going up and we're just going straight over it. We don't have to worry about bashing straight into it. We don't have to worry about trying to make sure we're clearing it. So you can see the footwork here. It was a difficult one, but I managed to slide that right leg in because obviously the stone was so big. I'm doing it again there. That's why I had to relap and then get my bounce out. That was a good rep, that.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, you can see the points that we've covered about him shuffling his feet in. You can see what he does really, really well here, which I talk about on like really heavy like max stones. That's relevant for this. Is actually, because he's not confident he's got his hands in the right position to accelerate straight into the hole to bounce out. What Tim does, he actually laps, makes sure he's in the right position, and then he comes up a little bit. That little pop up there is just absolute magic, because what he's doing there on purpose is he's coming up so then he can afford to accelerate back down into the hole again
yeah, the stone wasn't in the right position, was it? I'm trying to get it in a better position and then try to get a little bit of momentum as well. I wanted the stone higher, and I wanted that momentum where I could come out of that hole a bit quicker.
Yeah. So what I love about the positioning from the floor as well, which is obviously pretty obvious, that it's like around the widest part of the stone, around the equator. What I like about this, I think you had maybe a bit of a tacky slip on the lap in it, but you didn't panic, and you kept it and made sure you got it in a good position before you attempted the load. Yeah. So you can see here it just kind of slips a little bit, and then you stick with it. You're patient, pull it in. And then also what I like about the arm position, which can, in my opinion, help with the extension, is having like you see in there that there's a little bit of a grip slip. So actually having his arms like not quite 2/4 but a bit lower than 10 to 2. A lot of people come with their arms over like this, and I just feel that you say with the arms that little bit lower, providing that you're not kind of using your arms to lift the stone, you're driving through the legs properly, blah, 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 blah. Like I feel like you've got a really good grip of the stone on there. Yeah. So last little bit, Tim, on Atlas stones. Tell us about your experience with, because obviously it's changed over the years, like your experience with stone sleeves and our philosophy that's kind of changed on this. What do you think? How do you feel? Why you bare arm now? You look like a savage.
Main reason using stone sleeves is just something else to go wrong. Was the main thing. We did use them for quite a while, and it was so faffy, wasn't it, in training, in competitions. They were slipping down, and that was kind of, we were struggling to pick up any heavier stones, weren't we? We were kind of stalling at around 140. We just couldn't go any heavier because we'd go heavier on a stone, you'd put your tacky on, and then you'd go to pick it up and the sleeve would just come down. There was a lot of faffing around between sets, and you just one session, we'll just get rid of them. And we just prioritize having tacky spread on our hand, and we could get a really good grip of the stone. In the pickup, we're not, most people try and think, oh, it's dangerous just using your hands and try to curl it up on your bicep and stuff. But if we watch the technique, I'm just using them as levers. There's a little bit of bend in the elbow, but it's a very heavy stone, that one. It's quite big to get around it. But even on your lighter stones, you can kind of just use them more as levers to get it up. But yeah, stone sleeves, it was just something else to go wrong, really. Found that I had a much better grip on the stone without them on. And I could just go a lot heavier straight away. It was almost instantly, was it, in that one session when we took them off? We unlocked 10, 15 kilos straight away just from using hands. And yeah, it did take a bit of time to build up the tolerance. It hurt at first, but
what do you say to people who are like wincing at the idea of this because they're scared of the forearms hurting? What would you say?
I think it's obviously going to take a bit of time to build the tolerance up. Maybe as doing a bit of tackier stones would be quite good at a lighter weight with just some chalk. Try to get used to holding the stone. Obviously, going really heavy and putting loads of tacky on and ripping all your arms to bits first session is not going to be a great starting point. But try to do a bit of tackier stones.
I think a thing for me on stones, like I believe that if you get your tacky right and your equipment right, you assuming the stone's not slippy, like remember what Tim's just said about your arms just being levers. They're just connectors. They're like hooks with pieces of string on the end. Like I even say to people, like, if you get your tacky right, it's almost like figure of 8 lifting straps on a deadlift bar. Like it means that you're just connecting. So your arms aren't bent on the deadlift. You keep your arms straight. So we should be kind of doing the same thing on here. But I like the idea of, like, say, if you get your tacky right, actually, if you put your tacky on your hands, not only can you, as like the main point, a lot of people just covering the forearms as the main kind of connector. But I feel like not only are you making it more kind of hard on your skin, more uncomfortable for your forearms, but you're actually giving yourself like a lower, you're putting yourself in a unfavorable position to pick the Atlas stone up, because if you get your foot to get your forearms around it, you're almost having to get your chest to the stone, and almost like being this kind of bent over stiff leg deficit position. Whereas I feel like if you can get your hands connected to a good bit of the stone and not rely on the forearms so much, not only do your forearms not hurt as much, but also you can get like a higher start position on the stone. But again, this is something that you can only gain from experience and getting in there and practicing it.
I think as well, like just using the tacky technique that we use with just the hands, you've got a little bit of margin for error in terms of, if you watch this rep here, if I had tacky sleeves on with loads of tacky and I'm stuck straight to the stone, I wouldn't have been able to, readjust here in this position, would I, and get it in a better position to load it, because I'd just been stuck to it and I'd been kind of over it, and I wouldn't have had any kind of ability to move mid-rep, would I? If that makes sense.
No, definitely not. So yeah, if anybody's if anybody would like Tim to look at be coached by a world record holder on the Atlas stone, somebody who's lifted 174 at 80 kilo body weight, and more importantly, struggled with stones. Like if we could, I'm not going to get it up now, but if we could get some of the footage up of you loading to those pallets, you and Joe losing your head loading to those pallets years ago with the 90 that we still use now, like, and struggling and missing reps and stuff and getting frustrated with it, like they wouldn't believe the progress. And
that's it. Been the comps where it's been like 120 for reps and no reps.
Yeah, exactly. And but learning together, and we've actually like how many times have we subtly but significantly changed our philosophy and our approach? Like regarding the stone sleeves, like even so much as like say using the belt in position and stuff. Like I've gone away from that personally, but again, that's something that I think even long term, that's going to be another kind of thing that'll get you even progress even more. Yeah. But yeah, my point is somebody that's had to work to get better, and now he's legit world class. Like you look at you might say, like it, and you're proving it in two different scenarios. Max Stone, which is absolutely brilliant, and like one of the most impressive stone runs I've ever seen, like 100, 120, 140, 165. So. Yeah, link in description if you'd like to get some coaching on that. So, final question today, Tim. So, final question today: do you do anything in particular for building and maintaining core strength when bracing for either heavy or longer distance farmers and yoke runs? What's your experience with this? So, let me help you with the painting the picture a little bit. So, if you're let's paint the scenario. If you again. Let's talk from experience, because we've got so much experience with this. Yeah. You prepping for kind of 100 England's strongest man, 100 kilos for, what was it? 45 meters versus say Britain's strongest man, where you're going 120 for distance, which is kind of the first event's like a kind of speed event. and like going to be how fast you can move, and whereas the second event's more about like say grip endurance and like how good your grip is and how long we can keep going with it. So yeah, using those different scenarios, like imagine that in your head, like how would your preparation be different? Would it be different in terms of technique, or like what pointers do you think of? I'll help you with this.
I don't really get what that's got to do with the question now.
Right, maintaining core strength when bracing heavy or longer distance.
We don't. I guess to answer the actual question, we don't do anything directly specifically to target core strength, do we?
Yeah.
In terms of accessory wise, there's nothing particularly in the program. If it was something we kind of targeted as a real weakness, then yeah, we might put something in. But it's exactly the same as all the other movements. If there's no particular weakness there and we just need to get better, then we're going to focus on prioritizing our hour and a half a night on getting better at the event. But if there's a clear weakness there, like you might have on deadlift or something, you'll put a clear accessory in, then yeah, that would obviously happen. If someone feels like they've got absolutely no core strength and every time they pick a yoke up, they feel like they're just getting crushed and they can't stand up straight, then yeah, we might put some accessories in to directly improve core strength. But I guess the beauty of Strongman is that when we're doing stuff like farmers and yokes, you know, we are directly improving core strength, and we're not. It's not like we're just doing a leg extension and working our quadriceps, is it? It's so much more than that. But I guess that kind of tries to answer the question directly in a 30-second answer. But what were you going to say, Josh?
Yeah, so let's talk about a few different scenarios then. So say look at this. What I'm thinking of here, right, as a using this as a grip endurance thing. It's 220 for whatever 60 seconds, and what I'm focusing on here, right? I think where a lot of people focus on going wrong with core stuff. What I'm focusing on here is endurance and grip endurance. So the big thing for grip endurance, what you need to focus on is getting ideal positioning. Right? An ideal positioning to be enduring is actually the opposite of like trying to create loads of tension at the core. Right? If I pick this up and that's what so a lot of people are beat at this. Right? A lot of people are doing. They look really, really strong, and then they looked like they were really tense through the first 15 to 20 seconds. And they were focusing on like engaging the core or creating tension throughout the whole body, but they can't endure that for very long.
Yeah.
Whereas what I was focusing on here, I was like, right, well, to have a chance of getting like over 60 seconds, there's no way I can actively brace all the way through. So because I'm just going to hit a point where I die and then drop off. And you see it happen to a lot of people when they do like say 40 meters on farmers or yoke or whatever. They might look really strong on the way there, and then they just die halfway back because they've not been kind of, what's the word? Like pacing the brace. Well, you can cue that, quote that. Pacing the brace. Like a lot of people like say kind of blow the load on that first length for the first 20 seconds, and then they've got nowhere to go when they run out of energy to create that tension. Does that make sense? Yeah. Whereas here, like what I'm doing is, if you look from the side, I'm actually focusing on like in terms of core, what I'm actually doing is creating as minimal tension as I can throughout my, like globally through my body, so I can focus on creating tension where I need it in my hands to keep my hands from opening.
So you're basically trying to say you're not focused on fatiguing everywhere as such. You try to minimize fatigue on whole body. You try to relax and just focus on your grip instead of your core being burned out after 20 seconds because you're focusing on squeezing it maximal contraction.
Yeah. So what you have to do to be able to kind of, so you can pace yourself with that brace is actually use your skeleton and make sure the joints are stacked on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So you'd see from the side here that the middle of the center of mass of the frame is aligned with my hand, my elbow, my shoulder. My shoulders are above, like my spine's in a pretty much straight line on top of my hips, my knees, my ankles and stuff. Like, so So I'm actually relaxing on my skeleton as the thing that's holding the weight, and I'm focusing on contracting my hand, like the energy into stopping my hands opening directly. But if it was, let's say, a 300 kilo frame, like and the goal was to hold it for 10 seconds, like or say, what have you done? What's your PB you've done, haven't you? You've done farmers pick up 200 each hand, haven't you?
Yeah, for 10 seconds each.
10 seconds. So could you have, like, how would the approach differ for you doing that? Like I'm saying for this, keep your core relaxed and just stack your joints on top of each other. If you took that approach with what you were doing, you wouldn't be able to move it off the floor. So
no, it was like it was a maximal whole body contraction to get it even up, and then it was just kind of squeeze everything until, because I knew my grip would probably go before the rest of my muscles fatigued as such, didn't it? I guess if we try to go from your analogy. So it was a max contraction basically to get it off the floor, and it was just kind of squeeze it until my hands came open. I had 10 seconds in mind. I knew I'd be able to. It was just kind of a whole body battle as such to do it.
Yeah, so taking this farmers, for instance, this was like a moderate weight for me, this one. So what the focus was on here was, again, stacking my joints, not creating too much tension in the core, but actually focusing on here. I knew my grip was good enough to maintain all the way through, so I didn't need to waste much energy like squeezing as such. I was focusing all my energy on sending like, say, focusing on moving my legs really, really fast. Yeah. So again, it was like kind of the anti-brace approach on this, and focusing on, because if you're focusing on engaging, you really, really, really bracing hard, then it's going to come at an opportunity cost at what you can do at the other stuff. Yeah. So take another scenario, like say you were doing, say, Tim, you were doing like 110 each hand, 10-meter drop and turn. How would your approach be with that in terms of brace, do you think, and core engagement?
The 10-meter drop and turn.
Let's say a 15-meter yoke. Let's say Worlds last year, 317 or whatever it was.
Right, yeah, heavy yoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if so, let's say that's quite a maximal yoke for me. It's not my. Yeah, that'd be quite a heavy yoke for me. I guess I would have to be pretty solid, because I know that for me, I can't afford to have any kind of weak links in the chain. Everything's got to be really kind of focusing almost on not collapsing as such. If it was a heavy farmers as well, I've got to basically make sure that my whole body is braced to kind of help take the load of those farmers as such.
Yeah, cool. So I think the key is like is energy system specificity. So if you're going like, say, for regardless of, like, say you were doing a 315 yoke for 15 meters versus a 230 yoke for 15 meters, I think your bracing should still be maximal for both, because obviously you brace, you need the maximal core stability for being able to do the heavy, obviously, but also that maximal brace on the 230 is going to make you be able to move faster because of the neural activation and stuff. But I suppose my kind of pointer is based on if you're going for longer, say you're going for 40 meters, even if it is pretty heavy, you need to think about, or say, for instance, like you did a comp last year with 250 for distance, didn't you? 250 frame for distance. And on that, the whole thing is basically the prep for that. Well, I did well on that, didn't I? I did like 55 meters or something. And I remember thinking in the prep for that, what I was thinking of was actually, right, because actually, this is a good one to finish on, right? That prep was different for me and you. Tim's grip is slightly better than mine. Well, significantly better than mine. Tim's pickup strength is a lot better than mine. My moving is more efficient than Tim's. So with, like, say, a moderate to heavy farmers, like, it's pretty close. You couldn't really. It kind of depends on the day, really, doesn't it? I'd say we're pretty close in terms of ability. But in terms of preparation, my preparation would be different to Tim's. Tim would be thinking about building leg endurance for that 250.
Yeah, I didn't go particularly heavy, did I?
Yeah, that was it. And focusing on endurance, so you didn't need to worry about the grip or the pickup. So you were focusing on building endurance in the legs. Whereas what I was focusing on right, if I can pick it up, I know I can grip it. I know I can like move fast enough to the other side with it that my time under tension is low. So I was actually focusing on like, right, bracing on the pickup, but then kind of getting it in a position where I could relax, where my joints were stacked. And so basically by the end of the prep, what I was basically learning how to do on that event was actually how I could brace minimally, like the minimum effective brace for picking 250 up off the ground. So then my energy was saved for the actual moving and gripping with it. Where so yeah, the context is key, and this is another thing where we're going back to kind of the benefit of doing the undulating intensities and actually training specifics, because we're talking so intricately here about like 100 kilos for 20 meters versus 10 meter drop and turn versus 45 meters versus 120 for distance that we did at Brits versus 140 for 15 meters. All these different scenarios you can imagine, and you can imagine how your technique's subtly different in all of these, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
that's the key, isn't it, in terms of what your goal is of the event.
Yeah. Right. So 6-week trial block with Tim, link in description. So great to have you today. Great to have a chat, and it's brilliant having a reflection. We had like a podcast episode about 2 years ago, but now like we can just talk from like how much experience we've gained in the last 2 years in both as athletes and coaches is just absolutely brilliant. And I feel that we can be so helpful to other people on their journeys.
We've done a fair amount between us, haven't we, which has been good.
Yeah, brilliant. Nice one, mate.
Mate.
Follow him, Instagram, World's Strongest Twins. Boom.
See you later, mate.
See you, mate.